Hello everybody and welcome to another Twilight Zone review. Today it is Season 5, Episode 18, Black Leather Jackets, written by Earl Hamner Jr. and starring Shelley Fabre as Ellen, Lee Kinsolving as Scott, and Michael Forrest as Steve. And this episode, Black Leather Jackets, seems to be a fairly unpopular Twilight Zone episode. You don't really seem to hear too much about this one, and that's understandable as the plot of this episode is kind of far-fetched and doesn't really totally make sense, isn't very believable. But there is kind of a B-50s and 60s sci-fi movie feel to this episode that makes me like it a little bit. It has some charm to it, and certain elements of it are so kind of out there and ridiculous that it's kind of fun in a way, but I will admit that the episode has some problems and isn't really very good overall. But I feel it's watchable. So we start right off the bat with an attention getter. We get these three guys coming into a new town on motorcycles. And the musical score is ridiculous in this scene, which fits the episode perfectly. And they come into this town and they're just riding around introducing themselves. And we also meet this girl named Ellen, one of our main characters, and she seems interested in them right away. And her father says, stay away from these guys, be leery. I would say he's right about this. And then we see one of these guys use his mind to open a door. Yeah, that's the kind of episode that this is. Then we get our opening narration, and Rod Serling basically tells us to call them Scott, Steve, and Fred. So I'll listen to what Rod tells me. So that's the setup for the episode. It's pretty crazy. So we go to the next scene, and we're introduced to Stu and Martha, who are Ellen's parents. And they're having problems with their TV reception. Then Ellen comes down and says she's having problems with her radio as well. It turns out there's this new antenna outside the house coming from next door. So Stu says he's going to go over there and talk to these three guys who are now taking up residence there. And when he goes to see them, they pretty much don't take him seriously at all. They say they're from outer space, and one of them says, "Take me to your leader," or something ridiculous. And Stu says they'll be sorry. He's going to get the authorities on him. But they put him in some kind of trance or something. It's never explained. I have no idea. You just have to go with it. And they tell him to forget about it. So when he gets back home, he tells his wife that they're nice boys. So at this point in the episode, Scott and Ellen meet, and this is significant. And Scott gives her a ride to the library, or he's supposed to. They wind up in the park for some reason. And Stu is concerned about this, which he should be. So after Ellen and Scott are in the park, they just chat and get to know each other, and you can tell that they like each other. And Ellen asks Scott a lot of questions, but he avoids the questions and won't say where he's from, and he says that he's probably older than she thinks. So in the meantime, Steve and Fred are waiting for Scott to return, but he isn't, and they're talking to this giant eye. That's what I'll call it, because that's what it is. It's a giant eye. So we learn that these two guys are awaiting orders, and they also basically say the human race isn't that smart, and we know they're plotting something. So at this point, we're at about the halfway point, and the eye says that Scott has been with Ellen for like 5 days, I think, so they can no longer trust him, and they're going to go on with this plan without him. In the meantime, Ellen and Scott are getting closer, and another scene between them. And Scott tells Ellen, "You're too nice for this race." I guess that was supposed to be a compliment. I'm not really sure. Ellen knows he's hiding something at this point, and they pretty much leave there. Then an abrupt cut to the next scene with no warning. We get Steve interrogating Scott against the wall. He's questioning Scott, and at this point then Steve goes to talk to the eye, and we learn that they're going to contaminate all the water. I don't know why this is the plot, but it just is. So Scott goes to see Ellen, and he tries to warn her that this is going to happen. He tells her she should leave time. He'll take her somewhere safe. It must be somewhere off the earth if this is going to happen to the whole earth. I don't know where he's going to take her, but he gives her no reason. He just says everybody's going to be gone. They're going to be wiped out. So, of course, she doesn't believe him. So he tells her he's from outer space and that there's this plot to do something to the water supply. And here's one of the big problems with the episode. Why would she believe this? He's given her no proof. And if someone just told you they were from another planet and told you this plot just out of nowhere with no warning, what would you think? I'm just saying that was a little weird. So Ellen tells her father, "I think this guy Scott needs help. We need to get him help." So Ellen's father basically calls the police, and he gets the deputy. The deputy says, I'm in charge right now. The other guy's on vacation. But we find out the deputy is in on the plot. So at this point, Scott goes to talk to the Eye. He wants the Earth and all the people to be spared, but the Eye says it's too late, basically. So Scott comes over to Ellen's house one last time to warn her. Only our friend the deputy is there, and they take him away. Who knows what's going to happen to him, and Ellen is very upset, and she probably should be, because things probably aren't going to end too well for the Earth. I'm not really sure. So overall, Black Leather Jackets isn't really good, but I find it to be watchable in a strange kind of entertaining way, and I give it a 2 out of 5. Just too many plot holes and a little bit too silly, but I found this episode to be watchable, so you can check it out if you want. 2 out of 5 for Black Leather Jackets, and as always, thanks for watching.